Longer Communications 10 lappers for Formula VWs, and on pole position we're going to have Eugene Heary. 11 of these drivers get through to the finals of the Volkswagens, so it's a very important qualifying session indeed, and I can predict a certain amount of chaos on the opening lap, because round the back of the circuit, you can just see it in the background, on one of the warm-up laps earlier, a car has laid a trail of oil, and this of course has been mopped up as best it can be by the marshals with cement dust. But it could be very interesting indeed, because it's right on the racing line on some of these corners, and I think these drivers are going to have a problem on their first lap. However, before that happens, they're coming up to the grid, and alongside me, Colm Doherty, who has had experience in this form of racing.
Yes, indeed, Alan. Quite a tricky car to drive around Mondello Park. The suspension not quite as state-of-the-art, if you like, as the Formula Ford category. But this really is the Clubman single-seater class. A tremendous class to start in, and very, very popular both north and south of the border. I think somewhere between 40 and 50 drivers now competing regularly in this class.
And we're picking out some of the top runners in the front row of the grid there. Neil Young, Eugene Heary is on pole position. The marshals are scattering from the back. We've got a vacant row there in the middle, with Eugene, number 3, gets a reasonably good start. Off they go. We can see number 20, Joel McKay, going through a picture there. Eugene Heary being crowded down on the inside by, I think it's John Mahon there. And you can see some of the oil problems. They're all safely through telecom. And here he chops across the nose there, going nicely as he leads them out into the country on the first lap. And here comes that cement dust problem.
Yes, well, Eugene Heary in the lead. Amanda, we're used to seeing indeed at the front of Formula VW races. Very, very experienced driver, company director from Dublin. And Alan Scott, I think, tucking into second place there on the start, Alan.
So, and there's the problem. Look at the following drivers. Heary has a huge advantage because they're in a complete cement dust. Visibility is virtually nil there. We see number 5 coming through at David Sheen, but it certainly scattered the field considerably in the first lap and given Heary a big advantage.
It certainly has. After 2 or 3 laps, I would expect this problem to settle down a little bit, Alan. But very, very tricky for the opening laps. These are the dangerous times. These are the times when all these drivers are really wound up to the last.
Andrew Scott in second place, John Mahon in third, Neil Young in fourth. So Young really having a bad opening lap there, the man that was on the front row of the grid. And the rest of the field streaming through, somebody getting very wide on the outside of Telecom that time. We'll see if he comes through. Picture was a yellow car, and indeed he dropped a place. It was number 5, David Sheen.
Yes, well, the Shane name is a name that you're going to hear a lot of in this race. There are 2 of the Shane family in this race from Blaine Row in County Wicklow, David Shane and his brother Derek Shane. And these are the men who build the Shane racing cars. I think 15 of the 20 cars in this race are Shane's. So a great success story for an Irish constructor.
But currently embarrassing the Shane name considerably there is number 27, Andrew Scott, in a Normsby, a car that I haven't heard of before in this class of racing. 16, John Mahon under tremendous pressure in the background there from Neil Young. Neil Young just going through picture now. But Andrew Scott in the Ormsby now, very close indeed, and out of the slipstream comes Neil Young. They're absolutely side by side. That's for 3rd and 4th places. It's going to be a really brave out braking manoeuvre down into Telecom, and it's still a man on the inside who withholds the attack from Neil Young. That's for 3rd and 4th places.
Well, Andrew Scott is a driver that we haven't heard very much of, really. Something of a newcomer, 35 years of age, from Wicklow in the home-designed Ormsby. And he works as a sales representative for Hard Metal Machine Tools. Well, fast and furious action there, Alan.
And it's all closing up, all the first 4. And the 5th car, in fact, is Raymond Moore, and he's getting an excellent view of all these antics as he comes through. And then I think it's number 76... No, it must be 16, John Mann. John Mann who's behind that.
And then Niall Young from Glasnevin, the 28-year-old in the project. So it's very, very close stuff indeed.
David Shane had a big moment there down at the bottom of the hill earlier on, but great stuff. Eugene Heary leads. Andrew Scott is second place. Then we have John Mahon. Then right on his tail, Niall Young. And then Raymond Moore as they go streaming through at the end of the 3rd lap.
Well, of course, Formula VW really is a great success story for Ireland. It was invented by David Shane from Wicklow back in 1975. and it's been a tremendously successful formula. It's a great learning formula for any young driver who wants to learn what it's like to race a single-seater. So something that's quite unique to Ireland and very, very successful.
And Neil Young has made it up into third place. Neil Young, a very famous name in terms of lunar landings, but he's landed himself into third place in this Fungi Communications Volkswagen race after a very hard fight indeed. It'll be interesting to see now if he can close on Andrew Scott, who constantly stays in the gearbox of Eugene Heary, the leader.
Well, Eugene Heary, of course, the very experienced driver here, a former lap record holder in this class, a man who perhaps we would expect to be pulling out a bit of a lead at this stage on Andrew Scott. But I think, Alan, he's been surprised at the pace of Andrew Scott and how Andrew has been able to hang on to Eugene's car.
So let's just give you a recap. Eugene Heary leads. In second place, Andrew Scott. Third is now Neil Young. Fourth is John Mahon. Fifth is Raymond Moore. And sixth, I think, coming in there, possibly number 8, David Sheehan. And I missed out Cyril Fidgen.
Well, Niall Young beginning to put on great pressure on Andrew Scott here for second place. We see this is the battle here for second. Niall Young, the 28-year-old from Glasnevin, he's a maintenance fitter, and he definitely has his sights set on second place now.
There they go. Number 16 in your picture, John Mahon from Gorey. But all of a sudden, Eugene Heary's got certainly a big advantage, and we've got a tremendous battle for second place. Niall Young on the outside, Andrew Scott on the inside, and the inside is the right place to be. But if Niall Young can now line himself up with a good toe down the straight, he possibly came out of the slipstream a little bit too early. He's on the outside of the course. Scott should be able to withhold him under braking down the inside. They almost touch, and he's forced Young onto an outside line. So Andrew Scott just holding off the battle temporarily, I would think.
Well, we're just at half distance now, and really Eugene Heary must be delighted to see these boys dicing so hard for second place. This really is working to Eugene's advantage. Heary beginning to pull out an advantage on these guys now.
Big mistake there by Young. He's lost a huge amount of time down at Budweiser, and in fact he's dropped almost back into the clutches of John Mahon and number 64 Raymond Moore there, who are also dicing furiously. So Niall Young, I'm afraid, getting a little bit overexcited there and paying the price, but now he gets the head down again, and as you can see, once he gets the concentration going, he seems to be able to close without too much difficulty on the second place man, Andrew Scott.
Well, let's not forget, of course, that this is a qualifying race, and the pressure here is on those who wish to qualify for the big final later on today. The top 11 finishers in this race will go through to the final. They will be joining the fastest 9 drivers from practice this morning who have already gone through.
And qualifying race be damned there as the battle comes in once the television cameras are rolling. It's amazing the way the blood gets up on these drivers. Niall Young really beautifully lined up for Budweiser now, but didn't manage just to get in there. Scott is leaving nothing open, quite rightly, but he really didn't leave him an opportunity there. And once again, Scott sort of seems to ricochet up onto the tail of Eugene Heary, who we thought was away in this race, but he's dozed off a little bit.
Indeed he has, Alan. Quite surprised to see that Eugene Heary hasn't really been pulling out an advantage, taking advantage of the dice for second place. Here we see again.
And he's got him this time, surely. There must be almost interlocking fields, and he actually chickened out a little bit there. It was surely his corner. Niall Young may be running on a low budget and not able to afford any damage wreckage, but this time he has surely got him. The brakes don't seem to be quite as good on car number 17, and once again the Ormsby amazingly almost drives around the outside of him. This time Young gets aggressive, and I think Scott is off. Scott is off in a big way and into the bank.
Well, I'd have to say Scott was by far the more committed of the 2 drivers there, and perhaps I think going through that that left-hand corner, the air cell corner, perhaps he was a little bit too committed, Alan.
Well, it was certainly very aggressive driving indeed by Scott, both in his defensive second place, and then indeed when it came to that moment. But Neil Young now becomes a threat for the leader, and here we see it again. Scott got onto the inside of the grass. The car just whiplashed on him right across to the other side of the track. He was very he didn't get some of the traffic going through at that time. I don't think there's much damage in the car, but I'd say Andrew Scott is a little bit terrified there. Now look at this for the lead.
And Niall Young is really dicing with Eugene Heary now. This is incredible stuff. He's taken the lead on a most unlikely place to do it, on the outside going into Telecom Corner, and already he is beginning to drive away from Eugene Heary. So this is an extraordinary performance from Niall Young.
Well, I think the blood's up now in no uncertain terms. He's driving a project car as opposed to the Shane car of Eugene Heary. So there's Niall Young with less than 2 laps to go, and I wonder, is Heary seems to be tiring a little bit. He doesn't seem to have any answer to this young man at the moment.
Well, speaking to Niall Young this morning, his comment as to his ambition in this race was, I'd like to finish in a good position. Well, I don't think, Alan, he could finish in a better position than this.
Remember, it's the first 11 that go through in this Bungie Communications race, and certainly these two look happy enough. In 3rd place is still John Mann. 4th place is Raymond Moore. They're now being dropped fairly considerably by the first 2, and there doesn't seem to be anything that Eugene Heary can do about this. They're on their last lap, and there's a huge big gap now between 1st and 2nd. There's number 16 in 3rd place, John Mann. Then we're looking at 64, Raymond Moore, and Rathgar in his Shane in 4th place, passing one of the back markers there just on the right-hand side of the screen. What a drive from Neil Young. He made a fairly tardy start, and then, not that I can talk about starts, and then rocketed through as the race progressed, taking on the very best, and now with a very comfortable lead. And another back marker is the only thing between him and victory.
Well, I think Niall Young is definitely a battle-hardened driver after all that dicing with Andrew Scott. I think he learned a lot of what it took to be committed and confident in the car. And as you say, the blood was up, Alan. So really, it looks like Young's race.
So Young comes up into Barham Corner for the last time. Eugene Heary is closer than he has been for a long time, and indeed is challenging Heary down the inside. What happened there? Young has a problem. Young has the hand in the air. So sensationally, Heary takes it, and Young is going to coast through in 2nd place, but what bad luck. I wonder, is it a gear change problem? But something went terribly wrong up there in Barham, and he just had to give away the race. My goodness me.
Well, what a tragedy for Niall Young, and in fact his car is almost coasting to a stop now. On the exit of Barham Corner, we saw his car slowing dramatically.
Now here we see it. Niall Young is coming up into Barham Corner with a very comfortable lead. Suddenly, Heary closes dramatically as they come up the hill. Now, what is it? It seems to be cornering all right. He goes up on the curb a little bit. He comes out a little bit wide, but he just hasn't got the motive power. And that is where Heary has no difficulty getting past him. I wonder, did he miss a gear? Now the hand comes up. It has to be transmission or gearbox.
I would suggest halfway through the corner, Alan, definitely a transmission problem. The car just understeered to the outside of the corner, no drive, obviously.
So if ever there was a lucky man, it was Eugene Heary. Well, from one Volkswagen race to another, Formula Volkswagens, and this is the final. Sponsored